She thought burying her twin would give her everything. But the earth never forgets. Nkiru survives, guided by ancient spirits, and her return will change everything. Thank you for joining Frankie Stories. Watch closely, because betrayal has consequences far deeper than anyone can imagine. In the village of Umuaja, twins were never ordinary children. From birth, they were greeted with both celebration and caution, for the elders believed twins carried a single fate split into two bodies. What touched one would echo in the other. What was stolen by one would be demanded back by the earth itself. Because of this, twins were raised under watchful eyes, taught restraint, balance, and reverence for ancestral law. When Nkiru and Ngozi were born beneath a sky streaked with harmattan dust, the Dibia whispered that their bond would one day test the village. Though identical in face, the sisters grew apart in spirit. Nkiru was soft-spoken, content with farm work and moonlit songs, her laughter gentle as rain on dry soil. Ngozi, however, carried a hunger that never slept. She wanted admiration, comfort, and the future promised to her sister. A prosperous marriage and a life spared from hardship. As the harvest season approached and rituals of Thanksgiving filled the air, jealousy took root in her heart. She began to believe destiny was unfairly shared, and that balance could be forced by human hands. That same season, the elders warned that the earth was listening more closely than ever. Drums beat for abundance, yams were lifted from the soil, and ancestral masks danced beneath the sun. It was during this sacred time, when the boundary between blessing and curse thinned, that Ngozi made a decision that would awaken something far older than guilt. Something patient, something that never forgets. The night the betrayal came, the village glowed with firelight and song. Drums thundered as women danced in circles, their shadows leaping against mud walls. The scent of roasted yam and palm wine thickened the air, and laughter rolled freely, unaware of the silence growing in one heart. Ngozi watched her sister from across the square, studying Nkiru's smile, the ease with which people gravitated toward her. Each cheer felt like a theft, each blessing like a wound. When the moon climbed high, Ngozi called Nkiru away, claiming the elders had asked for help at the edge of the farmlands. Trusting as always, Nkiru followed, barefoot on the cool soil. The path wound past tall cassava stalks and into a clearing where the earth lay freshly turned from earlier harvest rituals. Before Nkiru could question the silence, Ngozi struck, swift, desperate, driven by fear of remaining unseen. The ground swallowed Nkiru's cries as soil fell heavy upon her, sealing darkness around her breath. Above the buried earth, Ngozi trembled, listening until the night returned to its rhythm. She staggered back to the festival, dust clinging to her skin like accusation. By dawn, the village believed tragedy had claimed one twin. Tears were shed, mourning songs sung, and Ngozi wore grief like borrowed cloth. Yet beneath the red earth, Nkiru lived, lungs burning, fingers clawing at soil, held between fading breath and a destiny that refused to release her. Darkness pressed against Nkiru like a living thing. The soil above her was heavy and unyielding, filling her mouth with the taste of iron and roots. She tried to scream, but the earth swallowed every sound, leaving only the frantic pounding of her heart. Time lost meaning as her strength faded, and memories drifted through her mind. Her mother's voice, the warmth of sunlight, the laughter she once shared with her sister. As her breath grew shallow, the darkness changed. It softened, no longer suffocating but listening. Nkiru felt a presence, ancient and vast, moving through the roots beneath her. Voices rose without sound, carrying wisdom older than names and villages. They spoke of balance broken, of blood bound by destiny, and of a debt the earth had accepted but not forgiven. Nkiru was not dying, they said, she was being claimed. When awareness returned, the soil no longer crushed her. Instead, she lay within a hollow of roots and glowing embers of light, neither fully alive nor among the dead. The spirits circled her, binding her to laws etched into the bones of the land. She would walk again, but never as she was. In exchange for survival, Nkiru carried their knowledge, the language of earth, the patience of roots, and the certainty that truth, once buried, always finds its way back to the sun. Nkiru did not awaken as humans understand waking. Her eyes opened, yet she saw without sight, feeling the shape of the world through vibrations in the soil and the slow breathing of roots. She lay cradled within a chamber formed by twisted tree veins and warm, glowing earth, as though the land itself had chosen to hold her gently. Above, the weight of burial no longer pressed on her chest. Below, something vast stirred, patient and ancient. The spirits revealed themselves not as bodies but as presences. Cool winds without air, warmth without fire, voices that spoke directly into thought. They told Nkiru she stood at the threshold between life and death, a place few touched and none entered by chance. Her survival was not mercy alone. It was necessity. A law had been broken, and balance demanded a witness, a bearer, and a reckoning. Twins, the spirits said, were born as mirrors of fate. When one shattered that bond, the earth itself was wounded. They taught her slowly, carefully, as one teaches a child to walk. Nkiru learned the language of soil, how truth traveled through roots faster than footsteps. She learned that lies carried weight, bending crops and souring water. She learned patience, for the earth never rushed its judgments. Each lesson etched itself into her spirit, changing her in ways she could not yet name. Her fear softened, replaced by a quiet resolve that felt older than courage. When Nkiru asked if she could return home, the spirits answered with silence, then a warning. She would walk among the living again, but she would no longer belong entirely to their world. Sunlight would feel different on her skin, names would taste strange on her tongue, and when she returned, the balance would begin to move, slowly, inevitably, toward truth. Above ground, unseen by Nkiru, Ngozi stepped fully into her stolen life, and beneath the earth, the land began to prepare its memory. Above the red earth, the village of Umuaja tried to heal. Mourning mats were folded away, and Nkiru's name slowly faded from daily speech, spoken only in quiet corners and during libations to the ancestors. Ngozi remained, draped in sorrow that earned her sympathy and protection. People praised her strength, her endurance in the face of loss, never suspecting how carefully her grief was performed. Each tear felt rehearsed, each sigh an offering to her new life. Soon, opportunities opened before her like doors that had always been locked. The man once promised to Nkiru came forward, drawn by familiarity he could not explain. Ngozi accepted him, convincing herself that destiny had merely corrected its mistake. Marriage brought her comfort, respect, and a seat among women whose voices carried weight in village matters. She smiled often now, but unease crept into her nights, curling around her thoughts like smoke. Strange things began almost at once. The yams harvested from her husband's field rotted within days, blackening from the inside though their skins remained whole. Fires refused to burn steadily in her hearth, whispering faint sounds when no wind stirred. When Ngozi glanced into water or polished metal, her reflection lagged, blinking after she had already turned away. She told herself these were coincidences, punishments from grief, nothing more. Yet the elders noticed. They spoke in murmurs about imbalance, about the land's growing restlessness. Ngozi felt their eyes linger on her, measuring, questioning. At night, she dreamed of roots wrapping around her ankles, pulling her downward. She woke with dirt beneath her nails, heart racing, convinced the earth itself was remembering what she had tried to bury. And far below, bound by ancient law, Nkiru began her slow journey back toward the light. As seasons shifted, Umuaja grew uneasy. The land, once generous, responded sluggishly to careful hands. Rain arrived late or not at all, and when it did, it fell in sudden, angry bursts that flattened seedlings instead of nourishing them. Hunters returned empty-handed, claiming the forest paths had rearranged themselves overnight. Even the river murmured strangely, its surface rippling as if whispering secrets only it could hear. The elders gathered more frequently beneath the old Irako tree, casting cowries and consulting signs that refused to settle into clear answers. Ngozi felt the village's discomfort press against her daily life. Her husband's patience thinned, his once warm gaze clouded by doubt he could not name. Food soured faster in her care than in others, and children cried when she passed, clinging to their mother's wrappers. At the stream, women paused their chatter when she approached, their eyes sliding away as if avoiding a shadow. Each night, Ngozi scrubbed her hands until they ached, yet the faint smell of damp soil lingered, clinging to her skin no matter how fiercely she washed. Dreams haunted her relentlessly. She saw herself standing on freshly turned ground, the moon watching without warmth as the soil beneath her feet softened and opened. Voices rose from below, not accusing but patient, waiting. She woke gasping, sheets tangled, convinced she heard breathing beneath the floor. Fear sharpened her senses, and she began to notice small, terrifying truths. How the earth seemed firmer beneath everyone else, how roots twisted upward near her doorway, how her own shadow sometimes split in two at dusk. Unbeknownst to Ngozi, these were not punishments but warnings. The spirits beneath the earth were stirring the land gently, urging balance to awaken without sudden ruin. Each sign was a memory surfacing, each disturbance a reminder that no betrayal is ever fully buried. And beneath layers of soil and time, Nkiru moved closer to the surface, guided by roots that bent aside for her passage, carrying with her the quiet certainty that the earth had not forgotten her name. Nkiru emerged at dawn, where the forest thinned into an abandoned clearing long avoided by villagers. The earth parted without sound, closing behind her as if she had never passed through it. She lay still at first, feeling the cool air brush her skin in a way that felt both familiar and strange. Sunlight touched her gently, yet it carried no warmth she could trust. When she finally stood, her legs trembled, not from weakness but from the weight of what she now carried within her. She no longer moved like the girl who had been buried. Each step felt measured, guided by an inner pull she did not resist. The forest recognized her. Leaves rustled softly in greeting, and birds quieted as she passed, watching with unblinking eyes. Nkiru understood their silence, not as fear, but acknowledgement. She was neither ghost nor woman alone. She was a living mark of a broken law, shaped by the patience of soil and root. At the edge of the clearing stood an old hunter, frozen mid-step, his eyes wide with disbelief. He crossed himself with trembling fingers, whispering a prayer as Nkiru met his gaze. He did not call her name, yet he knew. News travels differently when the earth carries it, and by midday whispers moved faster than feet. A woman had risen from the ground. The forest had returned what the village had buried. Nkiru did not go home. The spirits had warned her. Returning too soon would shatter the fragile path of balance they were setting in motion. Instead, she watched from the edges of Umuaja, learning how much had changed. She saw Ngozi in borrowed clothes, wearing borrowed smiles, surrounded by a life that should have been shared, not stolen. There was no rage in Nkiru's heart, only a deep, steady calm that frightened her more than anger ever could. As night fell, the ground beneath Umuaja settled uneasily. Roots shifted, insects sang in strange patterns, and the wind carried a familiar name through the village. Balance had begun to walk again, and this time it had a face. Ngozi awoke that morning to a village that felt subtly changed. The air was heavier, more watchful. She felt it first in the hearth, where embers sputtered despite careful tending. Then in the river, where her reflection wavered unnaturally, as if questioning her right to exist. A cold knot of unease settled in her stomach, one that no amount of reassurance or prayer could loosen. She tried to dismiss it, blaming hunger, fatigue, or imagination, but the weight persisted, following her like a shadow that refused to bow. The whispers began that afternoon. Children muttered her name without knowing why. The cattle refused to enter her pens, and crops nearest to her home shriveled overnight. Even the elders, speaking in hushed tones, noted the imbalance with worry that veiled their eyes. Ngozi tried to speak of it to her husband, but words tangled in her throat. How could she admit a fear rooted in buried secrets? In a crime so carefully hidden it seemed almost unreal. That evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Ngozi glimpsed her reflection in the polished surface of a calabash. It moved differently than she did, lagging behind, eyes glinting with recognition of a life that had once belonged to another. Panic surged through her, raw and sharp, cutting through the careful composure she had cultivated for months. She understood then that the stolen life she had taken was not hers to hold. The earth remembered, and it whispered of a reckoning coming closer with each passing hour. Meanwhile, Nkiru watched silently from the shadowed edge of the village, feeling the echoes of her stolen life pulse through the land. She did not rush. The spirits had taught her patience, the slow rhythm of roots and wind. Her time would come, and when it did, the balance would demand more than fear. It would demand truth. Ngozi, unaware, continued to walk her borrowed path, unknowingly stepping deeper into the consequences that had already begun to take root. The next morning, the villagers noticed it first in the marketplace. Produce lay rotting where it had been stacked neatly the night before. Poultry refused to eat, and streams of water seemed clouded with a hue of unease. Whispered questions circulated. Has the land grown restless again? Did someone anger the spirits? No one dared accuse Ngozi openly, but eyes followed her with suspicion. Even the elders, usually composed, avoided direct gaze when she passed, murmuring in secret about the imbalance she carried without knowing its source. Ngozi, sensing the shift but blind to its cause, grew restless. She polished mirrors obsessively, hoping to see herself as she wished, perfect, untouched, untied to what had been buried. Yet each reflection betrayed her. For a fleeting second, her image twisted, revealing the pale, soil-streaked face of Nkiru beneath the mask of life she had stolen. Shadows in the corners of the house deepened unnaturally. The wind carried faint whispers of a name only Ngozi could feel but not understand. Fear prickled her, a warning that her stolen existence had awakened something far older than her ambitions. From the forest's edge, Nkiru observed silently, her presence almost ethereal, her skin glimmering faintly under the rising sun. She did not approach yet. The spirits had taught her that confrontation demanded timing and patience. Still, every look at her twin pulled at the threads of memory and betrayal. Nkiru felt the weight of justice bending the village toward inevitability. She had changed. Soil, roots, and unseen hands had given her patience, cunning, and an awareness Ngozi could never comprehend. When Nkiru finally stepped into the village, she would not need to strike. Truth would rise with her, and it would be impossible to ignore. That night, Ngozi lit every lamp in her home and prayed aloud to the ancestors, begging for protection. But the wind answered her prayers with a sigh, carrying a faint rustle of earth and the unyielding certainty that nothing stolen from the red soil could remain forever hidden. The nights in Umuaja had grown restless. The wind carried voices that no one else could hear, whispers curling around walls and through cracks in doors. Children woke crying, claiming they had seen a pale figure wandering the outskirts of the village, moving with a grace that made the air itself tremble. Animals shied from paths they once walked freely, and even the elders felt the weight of unease pressing upon their shoulders. Something long buried had returned, and the village, unaware of the truth, felt its presence in every trembling leaf and shifting root. Ngozi could no longer dismiss the signs. Sleep eluded her as the whispers grew louder, often sounding like Nkiru's voice calling her name. Not in anger, but with an undeniable calm that unsettled her completely. She tried to speak to her husband about it, but words failed her, twisting on her tongue like vines. The reflection in her mirror no longer resembled her at all. It flickered between her face and the ghostly visage of the sister she had tried to bury. Panic sharpened into desperation, and she began performing rituals at the edge of the village, pouring libations and reciting incantations learned from the elders, hoping to appease forces she barely understood. Nkiru watched from the shadows, studying the woman who had taken her place. She did not move toward confrontation yet. The spirits had given her the patience of stone and the precision of the roots that had guided her through the earth. Each whisper, each warning from the wind, was a message from the land itself. Nkiru had been changed not just in body, but in perception. She could feel the pulse of the village, the secrets hidden beneath mud and timber, and the trembling in Ngozi's heart. The reckoning was drawing near. The earth would reclaim what was hers, not with cruelty, but with certainty, as it always had. Weeks passed, and Ngozi's fear deepened. The village, once alive with chatter and celebration, seemed to recoil in her presence. Crops faltered inexplicably, livestock grew restless, and her reflection continued to betray her, twisting into Nkiru's face whenever she least expected it. The villagers whispered of a curse, of ancestral anger, yet none dared speak the truth aloud. Only Ngozi could feel the weight of the stolen life pressing against her chest, a shadow that would not release her. One evening, drawn by the sound of wind that carried more than whispers, Nkiru finally stepped into the village square, her eyes glimmering with a strange, almost otherworldly light, fixed on her sister. Ngozi froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. Nkiru's presence was calm, measured, yet carried an authority that made the hairs on the back of Ngozi's neck stand on end. Without a word, Nkiru extended her hand toward her sister, not in mercy, but as a quiet demand for recognition of the wrong that had been done. The villagers scattered, sensing the tension before understanding it. Elders shook their heads, some muttering prayers under their breath, while others hid behind walls, unwilling to witness what the earth itself had orchestrated. Ngozi's mind raced. She wanted to flee, to deny what she saw, but the mirror of her own guilt stared back at her in Nkiru's unwavering gaze. In that moment, the stolen life, the lies, and the deception became heavier than she could bear. The air around them pulsed, as if the village itself waited for a choice that had long been set in motion. Nkiru spoke at last, her voice soft yet impossibly clear. "The earth remembers, Ngozi. You cannot hide from what you have taken." Each word reverberated through the square like a drumbeat, a warning that the reckoning had begun. After Nkiru's return, the village seemed to hold its breath. Even the elders, steeped in years of ritual and divination, could feel the shift in the air. The boundaries between life and the unseen had blurred, and the imbalance Ngozi had caused began to ripple outward. Crops that once yielded plentiful harvests turned brittle and hollow. Rivers ran shallow or changed course, and animals skittered from paths that had always been safe. Every corner of Umuaja whispered the truth. Something stolen must be restored. Ngozi's carefully constructed life began to unravel. Her husband, once proud and confident, grew distant, unsettled by shadows he could not explain. Villagers avoided her eyes, sensing without understanding that she carried a transgression heavier than any spoken curse. At night, her dreams offered no escape. She saw herself beneath red soil, felt the pressure of earth closing around her, and heard Nkiru's calm, unwavering voice in the wind. The stolen life that had seemed hers was slipping like water through trembling hands, and panic gnawed at her resolve. Nkiru did not hurry the reckoning. Every step she took was deliberate, each movement attuned to the rhythms the spirits had taught her. She was no longer the girl who had been buried. She was the witness of law, the bearer of memory, and the living balance of twin fate. The village, sensing her presence even when she stayed in shadowed edges, whispered of miracles and fear. Nkiru knew Ngozi's surrender was inevitable, and the land itself seemed to align with her silent patience. On the night when the moon rose fully blood-red over Umuaja, the whispers of soil and wind crescendoed. The stolen life had begun to fracture, and Ngozi could no longer deny the truth pressing upon her. The reckoning was near, and the earth's judgment, precise and unyielding, was ready to be delivered. The night was heavy with anticipation. A crimson moon hung low over Umuaja, casting long shadows that twisted like fingers across the village. Fires flickered in the compounds, as if reluctant to burn, and the wind carried an almost audible hum that threaded through every hut, every tree, every root. The villagers huddled inside, whispering prayers to the ancestors, sensing that balance itself was walking through the streets, and that the stolen life would no longer be tolerated. Ngozi stood at the center of the square, heart pounding, eyes wide with terror and disbelief. The reflection she had once tried to control now gazed at her from every surface: water, polished wood, the faint shimmer of metal, each one showing Nkiru's calm, unyielding face. Then, emerging from the shadows, Nkiru stepped fully into the moonlight. Her presence was otherworldly. Her skin seemed to glow faintly, her movements fluid and certain, her gaze unwavering. The villagers held their breath, sensing the collision of two destinies that the earth had long ago bound together. "You took what was not yours," Nkiru said, her voice carrying like wind through dry grass. "The earth remembers, and it will not forget. You must return it." Ngozi's knees buckled, tears streaking her face, as fear and guilt swallowed her. She had stolen her sister's life, but now the truth was undeniable, visible in every rustle of leaves, in every shiver of soil beneath her feet. Nkiru advanced slowly, not in anger, but with the certainty of law long enforced, long patient. The ground trembled lightly, and roots began to stir as if alive, moving subtly toward Ngozi. Crops leaned toward Nkiru, streams shimmered, and even the firelight bent to her presence. Ngozi fell to her knees, shivering, finally confronting the weight of her choices. In that moment, the stolen life unraveled, and the village, held in suspense for decades, began to witness the restoration of balance, as the earth reclaimed what was always meant to be. Dawn broke over Umuaja with a quiet intensity that felt different from all other mornings. The crimson moon had vanished, leaving the sky painted with soft gold and pink, and a gentle wind carried the scent of fresh earth and renewal. Villagers emerged cautiously from their homes, sensing that something profound had shifted. The imbalance that had plagued crops, streams, and hearths for months seemed to ease, as though the land itself exhaled in relief. Nkiru stood at the center of the village, calm and steady, her gaze resting on Ngozi, who remained kneeling on the dusty ground. The stolen life had been acknowledged and returned in spirit, and the bond between the sisters, broken but not severed, was finally recognized by both the living and the unseen. Nkiru's presence radiated the quiet power of the ancestors and the patience of the earth. She extended her hand, not in accusation, but in invitation. The choice to reconcile, to honor balance, was now in Ngozi's hands. Trembling, Ngozi rose slowly, tears streaming down her face, her heart heavy with regret. She could no longer deny the truth. Her greed and fear had caused suffering, not only to her sister but to the entire village. Nkiru's gaze softened, and for the first time since the betrayal, a sense of relief passed between them. Words were unnecessary. The village and the spirits understood. Together, the sisters stood as living symbols of the law of twins. Balance must be maintained, stolen lives must be restored, and the earth never forgets what is taken from it. From that day forward, Umuaja thrived. Crops flourished, streams flowed steadily, and the wind carried laughter instead of whispers. The villagers remembered the lesson of Nkiru and Ngozi, teaching future generations that twins, and all who walked upon the red earth, must honor the bonds of destiny. And deep beneath the soil, roots remained intertwined, silently watching, forever vigilant, a testament to the enduring memory of the earth and the inevitability of balance. Thank you for watching Frankie Stories. Please give us a like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, we love you.